We're going to bring back auto manufacturing to the United States of America. Tell your union head, United Auto Workers, Sean Fain, tell him to not endorse the Democrats that are going to put you out of business. You're going to be out of a job. Doesn't matter what you get on an hourly basis. You'll be out of a job within 2 years. I'm going to make you rich. I'm going to get you a job. You're going to make a lot of money, and you're going to make a lot of cars.
President Donald Trump keeps on winning as his biggest detractors is now thanking him publicly. Protesters tear their diplomas as they rage against Columbia University, and the leadership within the university has stepped down as schools don't seem to be in the business of education anymore. We've got a really interesting video today for you guys, starting with Sean Fain. Fain is the president of the United Automobile Workers, and if memory serves me correctly, he isn't the biggest fan of Donald Trump. In fact, he was a vocal supporter of former Vice President Kamala Harris in her presidential run. Here's what he had to say about Trump before.
Donald Trump is a scab. Donald Trump is a billionaire, and that's who he represents. If Donald Trump ever worked in an auto plant, he wouldn't be a UAW member. He'd be a company man trying to squeeze the American worker. Donald Trump stands against everything we stand for as a union, as a society. When you go back to our core issues, wages, retirement, health care, and our time, that's what this election's about.
But I guess time can change any person, right? And as you guys heard the president, his goal is to make these people a lot of money, for American workers to get paid what they're due, and for the United States to make a lot of cars. Something that's more than likely going to happen given his tariffs. Now, with that being said, Sean Fain has suddenly changed his mind about the president.
Okay, we wanted to come out, obviously, in the past hour, the Trump administration has made an announcement on tariffs, and I've prepared a statement to address this. I'm joined here by the bargaining committee from Volkswagen for the UAW. We are ecstatic to see an administration finally address the unfair trade laws in this country. These laws have destroyed the American working class. They've destroyed communities in this country and virtually every state for decades. So, we're talking about what President Trump said was a 25% tariff on vehicles not produced in the United States. Also part of that was the ability for Americans to deduct the interest off their loans for buying products that are made in America. So obviously we want to dig further into the details to have a better understanding of exactly how far these tariffs go. And we look forward to continuing to be part of the conversation with the administration going forward.
And this is a trend with people who don't like Trump. But in the end, they end up seeing that he means well, that he's a man of his word, and that he's literally out to make America great again. Now, we've seen how top Democrats like Tulsi Gabbard, RFK Jr., Elon Musk, and many others have changed their minds about him. This is what happens when communications opened up between both parties. And it's probably why liberal media wants to brainwash the American people. Because when you start to figure out that President Trump is a leader who's actually working for the country, then things will completely spiral out of control for Democrats. Now, Fain talked about tariffs and how the president is now using these tariffs on vehicles not produced locally. Auto workers will benefit immensely from the tariffs, and it's exactly why he's changed his tune from calling the president a scab to thanking him. Just listen to how he talks about bringing back car manufacturing to the United States and how it's bound to affect American workers right here at home.
When we can work with a politician on an issue and we get traction, we're going to work with them. But where we can't, we're going to be just as vocal.
Understood. Let's get back to the tariffs and the auto industry. Peter Navarro, a top advisor to the president on trade, says currently automobile manufacturing plants are at about 60% capacity. He argues that there's lots of untapped capacity, meaning jobs could be created relatively easy and you wouldn't need to spend 2 or 3 or maybe 5 years building new factories. Is that your understanding? Is that your belief?
It's spot on. Look, we have a situation right now in Warren, Michigan, where 2,000 workers were laid off this past year. They built the Ram truck there for years under Stellantis. And Stellantis made a decision to shift that production to Mexico. They could shift that work back in very short order and be producing Ram trucks right back there and put those people back to work. I was just at Volkswagen this week, talking with workers down there that are trying to get their first contract. And the company announced a reduction of a shift. Meanwhile, Volkswagen is the biggest violator of all. 75% of their production for the North American market is made in Mexico. So they could shift product there overnight. There's excess capacity. People forget this lesson in World War II. The way that we formed the arsenal of democracy that won the war was they took the excess capacity of all the automotive manufacturing plants in the country and produced tanks and planes and bombs and engines and all those things. And it's no different right now. We have excess capacity. They could bring work back in very short order. And yes, they're in a situation where they need to build a new plant. Yeah, that's going to take a couple years. But there is plenty of opportunity for these companies to do the right thing and bring work back here overnight, just as quick as they shipped it out of here.
And Sean, for people who are listening to you, how do tariffs make that happen? What is the relationship between a 20 or 25% tariff and getting that capacity back up to where you'd like to see it?
Well, because like everything, the companies abuse the process. I mean, they're in the pursuit of driving a race to the bottom. I mean, the tariffs are, there was a major promise when NAFTA, we go back to when NAFTA happened in 1992, the big debate, and Ross Perot talked about the giant sucking sound that our manufacturing base was going to disappear. He was spot on. And we saw what happened in the ensuing 30 years. We've seen 90,000 plants leave. Like I said, we've seen 65 plants in the big three close. Look, right now, as we speak, in Wisconsin, we have a Deere plant threatening to be closed and their work being threatened to go to Mexico. We have a heavy truck plant at Freightliner, Volvo, and Mack Truck in Pennsylvania being threatened to be taken to Mexico. There is plenty of opportunity, and that's the reality that we've seen here in America. So tariffs are a tool in the toolbox. They're not the end-all solution. We have to fix the broken trade system. But the way tariffs work, I mean, it's a motivator because there's going to be a penalty for everything the companies ship in here. And I've had companies tell us point blank that they're going to have to bring product back here if those tariffs are implemented.
This is the perfect example of the results speak for itself. And the same results are being met if we're talking about the security of our borders. President Trump made it a mission from day one to ramp up our national security. But this idea isn't being met well by some activists. So here's what happened at Columbia University, where an alumni is now facing deportation.
A group of Columbia University alumni tore up their diplomas today as part of a protest. They tore them up during Alumni Day at Columbia University's School of International and Public Affairs. They say the university had a role in the abduction of their colleague Mahmoud Khalil and now faces deportation for his role in pro-Palestinian protests on campus. Graduates say the university failed to protect him.
It's been 21 days since his detainment, and SIBA has not yet said Mahmoud Khalil's name. We are here because SIBA's collaboration with federal agencies has put our students, our peers, our friends, our community at risk.
The group says it now plans to withhold alumni donations and get potential students to boycott the university.
Now, they may think that they're advocating for peace, yet fail to realize that they're pushing for a very anti-American ideology. It's a radical mindset that's not going to help this university. Now, they already addressed the changes that need to be made. This is after President Trump threatened to have $400 million of federal funding pulled from the university. Because if you think about it, that much money could be used for so much more other than educating these activists. Now, I get that it's not a crime to speak out, to let your voice be heard because we do have the First Amendment. But these people are barricading themselves inside of buildings and they're denying students their access. Now, leadership within Columbia University has changed so much due to the tensions that are brought by these protests that are now overshadowing what these schools are actually for.
We have seen 6 high-profile university presidents resign, 2 of which are from Columbia, because these university presidents have failed to show moral, strong leadership. And President Trump, as he campaigned on, is holding them accountable. The decision to withhold federal funding from Columbia, that's what the American people wanted. That is what they voted for, because because these universities have failed to make sure that they are following their own rules. They have failed to protect Jewish students, and we will continue to highlight a spotlight. But the fact that we're on the third Columbia University president, and this one, let's be honest, Maria, is not going to last as well. It's already come out that she has criticized and belittled the House investigation and the accountability measures and has failed to protect Jewish students. So again, this is strong leadership from President Trump. I'm going to continue to lead this effort in holding higher ed accountable, standing up to be good stewards of U.S. taxpayer dollars, and combating the rot and the scourge of anti-Semitism in higher ed.
I think it's common sense, folks. Americans voted for schools to focus on education. And with the Trump administration, we're all hoping to get exactly what we wanted. But here's my question. Do you agree that schools should offer education over activism? Now, I want to redirect you guys to a live stream where I covered mainstream media bias. The evidence is staring at us right in the face, and it's now coming to a point where people are opening their eyes. Make sure you guys check that out. As always, appreciate y'all hitting the like button and subscribing. We'll see you next time.